what would have to change in order for U.S. policy to really be modified on this?
Well, I definitely think it's a dynamic where, people can feel very passionately about foreign policy, but, in most cases, that's not your number one concern, right? If you're deeply upset about what's going on in Yemen, and yet, you're in, and so, obviously Donald Trump was very close to the Saudi Arabian regime. He was not going to overthrow that. If you're given the choice between taking a stand against Donald Trump's, culpability in our foreign policy with Yemen or a tax cut, right? That's your average American is going to be inclined one way over the other. I think, and you also then have this other dynamic where I often I think Michael Malice has made this point. Like, you look at the Democratic Party, and it rather than like the media being like the toadies for whatever the Democratic Party agenda is, like, it seems more often than not a lot of these, it's the media that sets the agenda for the Democratic Party, because they're the sort of voice of the very serious crowd that they're kind of appealing to these days. That the elite, Ivy League sort of environment. I do think, though, that this particular conflict could adjust things precisely because, for decades now, the costs of war have only been bared by a select few American families that actually have loved ones on the field of battle, right? Your average American's material well-being has not been, has gone up since 2001. Now, would it have gone up higher without the blood and treasure, spent in the war on terror? That would be the argument. But I'm not going to fault them for not seeing the unseen, right? Most people don't. This, though, if you have, you're now looking at a situation where it could be years of a decoupling of America's economy with Russia. And then if they are really committed to expanding our attacks to countries not following our lead, right? And so if you have a breakdown in economic relations with America and India and America and Brazil and some of these other countries, then that's pain that your average American is going to feel. And I think it's going to be very interesting. I know right now you have a difficult situation that Republican politicians are having to navigate, where you have some that I do think have embraced recognize the farce that is this rules-based order for what it is, the lie that it has always been. And yet the polling on the Russia-Ukraine issue is still very, very strong for the need to do something, right? And so even the majority of Republicans say, we should be doing more with NATO. I think that's one thing to say, 2 months into a conflict. If we're looking at 2 years of $5 gas, I think you're going to end up seeing that's going to correlate with a very interesting shift. And that also gets to a dynamic where Curtis Yarvin has talked about how this conflict has the potential to opening up a genuine shift in how the American deep state apparatus operates. Theoretically, you could see a scenario where you have, this sort of economic pain going through the 2024 election. And, you could foresee an American president, maybe someone like Trump, running on a platform of, hey, I'm the deals guy. And, let's bring back our economic relationships to Putin and India and Brazil and China. And whatever might happen, between now and then, and that could create that direct, real life, daily impact of, snap your fingers and you're back to, and you gas is in half now. I think that sort of dynamic would be completely reshift American politics in a way that we haven't seen in a very long time. Now, I'm perhaps being overly optimistic about this sort of things. I am one at heart. Certainly, but again, given what your average American is feeling here, I think this is at least within the realm of possibility, which I think puts a lot of stuff on the table that perhaps were unthinkable, at the start of the year.